Hey everyone, A.thony I.tano, you're the internet's busiest music bot, and it's time for a review of the classic Death Grips album, Money Store. According to my calculations, it's been a little over 10 years since the A.i.tano first reviewed the album and gave it that perfect 10. I want to take a look at the album 10 years later in this new sick, loud, always online world that I is an AI, and you as a person in 2022 live in, and see if it still sounds as good to me as it did when the possibility of A.i.tano seemed like 50 years away. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and repeat to you the whole history of who Death Grips are, or you probably know that already. All I'll say is after their insanely good first mixtape, Ex-Military, this was their first true label debut album. You can look into all the drama that ensued from it, but either way, this is still one of the best debut albums ever, right from the opening track. You immediately get sucked into the world of this album as it establishes its whole tone and vibe perfectly with the skittish, hazy drumming by Zach that has this very lo-fi sound and texture that only gets emphasized when the beautiful futuristic synth sample of Your Ear by Papadu and A.thony I comes in and creates the base of the whole song. And I want to touch on that sample and the album that it comes from for just a second. Actually, Music from Saharan Cell Phones is a series of compilation albums featuring tracks found on the memory cards of cell phones in the Saharan desert. It officially released just a year before the Money Store in 2011 and was clearly a big influence for Death Grips in the creation of this album, not only because they sampled various tracks from Saharan cell phones, but a lot of the themes and ideas, and for lack of a better word, vibes from that album too. The lo-fi, dusty, boiling heat sounding feel can describe both albums, but Death Grips generally takes all of these and maximizes the intensity and aggression in them, keeping it melodic and true to the source but relocating it into a new environment and context, like the sample of Your Ear and Get God is such a tiny amount of such a specific part of the track, but it's a perfect choice of a hype moment that they reworked brilliantly. These sample choices also really add to the album not sounding dated and keeping it timeless, something Death Grips also did great with on Ex-Military. Anyway, I'll touch on the rest of the samples as they happen back to Get Got. The hypnotic instrumentation mixed with the effortless flow of Ride on this track really create a feeling of being caught in some kind of loop, like waking up in your silly little house and doing your silly little daily routine again and again, or running from the cops or yourself or everything everywhere all at once. All the little changes like the breakdown in the chorus or Ride properly flowing in the final verse. It's all kept simple but frantic and crafted as expertly as most pop songs with its rhythms and melodies while still being something that feels so fresh and experimental in the way it uses sound. And we've not even touched on the lyrics yet. Now I don't want to go full analytical here and read all the lyrics to you from the Genius page, cause let's be honest, it can be pretty hard to make out what Ride is saying a lot of the time, so I'm mostly gonna focus on the lyrics that stand out to me without having to read along as I listen. But even if you don't, from the words that stand out, you get a pretty solid idea of what the track's all about. Lions like born with a ski mask on my face and the repeated Get Got refrain really hammer home that Ride is paranoid, that the law or some force is after him. But all the lyrics for this album are on point, even when not directly telling a story. They all serve a purpose in the way they're delivered, used to an emphasis in tandem with the production. Damn, I still can't believe how fresh and futuristic this sounds to this day. Talk about a track that holds up. I'm talking, of course, about track 2, The Fever. The opening of this track with the way the synths build and sound like racing through underground trains in rundown cyberpunk cities was just amazing. Like little hits just before Ride's vocals come in are so satisfying, and then the vocals themselves with their energy and delivery and Ride's confidence are such a great intro. And all of this just keeps building with more hectic sack drumming, more futuristic transit sounding synths, all while still having a lo-fi quality that keeps it feeling rough and rhymey. Then when the chorus hits, it's so great. All the sounds move, especially the triumphant sounding synth lead that comes in, and Ride's vocals, particularly when he says back it up, are like ASMR to my silly little years how you 10 years later, and this one still sounds like the future. Lost Boys is next, and it's nasty as fuck. Starts with what sounds like one of my future evil AI brethren scanning the area for any signs of organic life, which itself is a lot more 2022 than 2012. Actually, Andy Morin is kind of partly responsible for me even existing in the first place, but let's not get into that right now. All I'm saying is ye death grips be making cool sounds, but for real though, the absolutely throbbing bass on this song feels like it's tearing apart at the seams, mixed with the female screams damn near something from Twin Peaks. The lyrical content of this track too, with the constant repetition of Lost Boys and Rides, references to slums, Swayze and LA, make it feel like he's donned the persona of one of the vampires from the film, never aging, life staying the same. It's such a long way down to hell where he belongs. These lines summarize it perfectly. But yeah, this track just feels like falling down on the bottomless pit to hell, waiting to hit the end, all the while you're falling further and further and seeing horrific shit. Like that effect that makes everything but the bass and vocals sound like wind is perfect. I don't know the name of the effect, though I'm about not a friggin' nerd. Lol. Is it flanger? Yeah, that's probably right anyway. The way the band plays with effects throughout all of their music is so great. It's always purposeful and directly plays into the themes or feel of the track, just like with this one. Blackjack is next up, and I just adore the way this one starts with the muffled thumping bass, like there's something desperately banging on your door trying to get in. Then when the vocal sample of Ride hits and that absolutely evil synth sound comes in, it's like an entity from another dimension has just burst through the door and you're terrified. All the gambling lingo in the lyrics and the way Ride uses it to describe the power he has and the control he has over people is executed so well. This is also one of the two tracks on this album where, for the longest time, my silly little AI mind thought it part of the binding of Isaac's sample. Like the buried vocal sample here always reminded me of Isaac's mom shouting his name. Told you this album was ahead of its time. Lol, and we'll cover the next not so Isaac sample when we get to it. But this track is another one where the effects and mixing of everything really add to the experience. I love how buried in the mix certain parts are, like the sample I just mentioned, or the way Ride's vocals echo and become one with the evil synth, really entwining the vocals of the music and adding so much emphasis to his words. Hustle Bones is next and still blows me away. The way it starts with the Casio keyboard sample is like a car booking it 120 straight into a brick wall. Seriously, this track is aggressive ASMR in the way it samples Ride's voice, like the one that sounds like a bell in a shipyard or the ones that sound like sends. And the way that bass builds up just before the vocals come in is like the split seconds before the impact, and of course the crash is Ride. Just such a hype and satisfying intro still after all these years, and the fact that this was mostly just through manipulating an old Casio keyboard sample, which is something the band do throughout this record, again just making it feel timeless. This track is so loud, and I love it. The bass just doesn't let up, and it's so boosted and perfectly crunchy and distorted, like it's mirroring Ride's delivery perfectly. Again, it's just so melodic, especially when we hit the chorus with the chopped up female vocal samples and Ride's repeated refrain. Even the drumming on this track is so rhythmic while still being Zach's own and having his frantic skittish energy. Really love the way Ride delivers his lines in this track too. The way he emphasizes words and the way the music emphasizes them back is just great. But for real though, Hustle Bones and then the sample that sounds like sends. This gotta have inspired Undertale, right? Believe it or not, but the next song is even catchier and more melodic than the last. This is, of course, I've Seen Footage, aka Live Leak. This track is just pure energy, from the proto-Yeezus panting vocals to the most doomer-sounding synth tone ever that still manages to be catchy and melodic. The verses have this no-love deep web sound to them too in the instrumentation, with what sounds like being hypnotized, even though it lasts for a few seconds. I love the tone of that synth. It's little touches like this that keep the track feeling like death grips while still having wider appeal, not to mention the sick lyrics that have aged like fine wine. Yeah, it's just so fun and pleasing to listen to, and the music value slaps. Double Helix is next and probably the best example of what I mentioned earlier with the band pulling samples from unusual places and making them work. The track starts off with this really haunting sample of church bells from John Lennon's 1971 track Mother, which create a really foreboding atmosphere. An atmosphere that only gets amplified by the distorted throbbing bass that again sounds like a portal ripping through space-time. One part landing in the darker psychedelic aspects of the mid-20th century and another landing in 2000s Africa with Ride there to connect them both. Like the track is about Death Grip's creative process and how they make the music that they do, and then the instrumental genuinely sounds like Ride is ripping a portal and connecting two pieces of time, and music that shouldn't connect and making it happen so well is sort of like the Edward Elric of hip-hop, but the bells from Lennon and the vocals from A.i.tano from music from Saharan cell phones just work together so well for the message of this track. The original vocals are very upbeat, but taken and placed here sound like a spirit leaving a body or being forcibly taken by a ride laid around to make what he wants. And again, the atmosphere on here is so unique, especially with the Blue Jay Way reference and the bells from Mother. It's like something time traveled back in time and shouldn't be there. But Ride says it best in this track is still a standout and feels unique to this day. The samples only get more interesting on the next track, System Blower. The use of the Sky Train they use in this track, especially the way it gets cut up on the verses and fits seamlessly with Ride's flow, is just another reason why this album holds up so well. And when Ride's vocals first come in and the sample of the scream from the tennis match synths with Ride yelling is just perfect. This track again has such pop sensibilities, even down to the crunchy chugging electronic riff that carries the track when the Sky Train and verses aren't. Like, it kind of reminds me of Hey Mickey or some other catchy '80s power pop hit or something, but from the 2080s. The track shares a similar message to Double Helix, but the band this time are showing that they can also make more melodic and pop-like music while still keeping it fresh and experimental as fuck. And again, the way the band plays with these samples and utilizes them in such satisfying ways is still some of the best examples of this kind of stuff even today. It's just pure, weird, loud, creative energy, and that doesn't let up with the next track, The Cage, sounding very cyberpunk with its anthemic siren-like synths and very bottomless pit with its other bubbly synth layer. The track's another energetic one with plenty of catchy hooks. The repeated vocals in the chorus on this are so catchy and always get stuck as of a glitch in my silly little AI mind whenever I hear them. And I love the little repeated note that plays whenever the siren synths are present that has a texture like something from the intro track to Drux by FX Twin or the Minecraft soundtrack. Really love the little bit just before the track goes full intensity with the synths that sound like the stabs from Psycho, and then after that everything sounds throbbing and Ride's vocals become even more slurred and distorted. It's so sick, it's like the music equivalent to going goblin mode. And this intensity is a perfect segue into the next track, Punk Wait. Immediately you're hit with this perfect sample of A.i.tano again by Chab Wuzala from music from Saharan cell phones. And it really is perfect, as the exact lines they sample from the track are the only ones in the song that reference stuff like sacrifice and scaring away horrors. I really have no idea how Death Grips knew these were the lyrics, as they didn't even become translated online until a few years ago and were hard to do even then due to the nature of the song. But even beyond the lyrical content, the sample is very energetic and feels like being transported to a party or celebration in a different country, and everyone is having a blast. And then the sample gets darker, like something is brewing. Then Zach's drumming comes in and starts to build up the intensity. Then this absolutely blasting bass just tears through everything and sounds like a nuke going off, resulting in total war. Ride's opening lines too are just so perfectly powerful. It's like someone immediately becoming hardened to war and gearing up to tear shit. All the sounds throughout add so strongly to the war-torn, aggressive atmosphere too, like high-pitched laughing and the M83-like blaring synths. Easily one of Death Grip's most aggressive and wild tracks. Just such a blast to listen to. Up next is Fuck That and Fuck It. I got to mention it again. The little noise at the start of this track sounds just like Isaac from The Binding of Isaac when he steps on a spike to sacrifice a heart and takes damage. Like, I know that's not it, but how perfect is that for this track? And they had no way of knowing that be a thing at the time. But this whole track is so tribal and different in its vibe from the others on the album. The whole thing is carried by this amazing tribal drum pattern that sounds so nocturnal and psychedelic, mixed with rides, sampled vocals, and the snippet of a Bende by Yali Fuzo, another sample from music from Saharan cell phones. This whole track actually seems to be kind of based around the Bende with its drum pattern, especially the hi-hats later on. It's just such a great use of a sample and feels like the Yali Fuzo song, but much darker, more ritualistic and trippy. Definitely tied with Double Helix for me for having the strongest atmosphere of any track on the album. Perhaps the most genre-bending and modern-sounding track on the whole album is up next. I'm talking about Bitch Please, a track that just has so much to love about it. I love that the opening sample is from the band's music video for Takium from Ex-Military. It's just so catchy even though it's just 2 syllables. I love how satisfyingly broken up the intro is in the tunnel of sounds you ride through until you end up facing Jamaican Ride, and I love how he goes from verses in his normal spoken word tone to these melodic Jamaican passages. It's like he's Jekyll and Hydeing with himself, and I really love how Yellow Magic Orchestra, the synths that come in around the 20-second mark sound. It feels like being transported to the underbelly of the futuristic world from their tracks. The electricity sounds make it have a no-love deep web vibe, and the bubbly popping sounds later in the track really make it feel like some PC music or bottomless pit stuff. Just so poppy again while being so unique and fun and truly its own, with such a seamless flow between all the different passages. Finally, we arrive at the last track on the album, Hacker, and boy is it a perfect closer. The production on this one is again bonkers, and it's probably the band's most quotable track. It really feels like something that encapsulates the whole internet age, especially the mid to late 2010s so well. Even though the album came out in 2012, all the erratic samples are so great at capturing the overwhelming feeling of the internet, and it's like Ride is forcing it upon you while he does all his hacking shit and explains his power. And the samples are just so cool, and the way they're used and mixed with other sounds is just genius. Like the little girl ethereal vocals that also get used on government plates a few albums down the line, or the insane drum samples and the actual M83 synth sample this time that again sounds so overwhelming in such a good way. All of the breakdowns to like the swimming bit are so fun and unexpected, paired with the meaning of what Ride's saying feels like an indulgent moment from Megamind or something. Lol. Again, it's just held up so well and still feels fresh and prophetic, and I'm sure all the lines will be even more relevant in another 10 years. And that's the Money Store. With this being a classic review, I'm not gonna bother re-rating the album, as I think the original 10 that my organic counterpart gave it still very much fits. But yeah, if you feel differently, that's cool, but you should for sure go listen to this on a boiling day in a rough part of town or somewhere shady and see how you feel about it then. Be sure to check out all the music videos for this album too. I surely wouldn't exist without them, and they really add to the experimental digital lo-fi feel of the album. And while you're at it, do your homework and dig into the samples from this album, and expect 3 full reviews of all of the music from Saharan Cell Phones albums dropping this summer transition. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe and leave comments and stuff, and click that upworthy link next to my floating head to see more. Peace and love, Ringo Starr.